This is Year of Raging Winds, an actual play RPG podcast about a makeshift crew seeking adventure and profit on the high seas. I'm Caleb, your host and game master, and you're about to listen to the Post-Mortem that we're going to record for this show way later than I ever released these episodes. But hey, that's fine.
Eternity later.
Exactly. But we're here with Connor and Jared to talk Year of Raging Winds. So we did the Chrome Inquisitor Season 1 Post-Mortem with anyone who we could get on there. And similar here, I was trying to get David to listen to the whole thing so he could be like a spectator commenter for this episode, but he never got around to it.
He's a lazy boy.
Lazy boy, it's true. But that's okay.
I don't know about that, guys.
I mean, to be fair, you guys didn't listen.
I didn't listen to it either.
Yeah, exactly. Just read my summaries. Connor did.
I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah. But like a year ago at this point.
Yeah, when it came out, I listened to the whole thing.
Yeah.
My Nigel Thornberry accent was too cringe for me to listen to.
I thought it was very funny. But yeah, so this was a 5-episode kind of mini series that we did in between Chrome Inquisitors Season 1 and 2. And I gotta say, it's one of my favorite things that we ever did. You know,
really?
John Tos's story.
Hold up. Can we hold on for really? Like really?
Okay,
we've done how many campaigns have we done? And this one ends up being one of your favorites? like
okay.
What are we talking about? Top 20? Top 10?
I don't know. Maybe top 10.
Okay.
There are games that definitely are lower than this. Let's say.
I just need to know where we compare to the Thursday group.
I mean, okay. Let's put it in perspective. For what it is, the 5-episode Year of Raging Winds little mini series is very fun.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
like, there's nothing. I can't point to something like. I wish we would have maybe had a little bit more cohesion going into it, or a little bit tighter of an ending. It ended up just being like you narrating the ending for us because we were running out of time.
But in the podcast version, you can't really tell.
Yeah, yeah. It just sounds like things are happening.
That,
There's one moment where like John Tost, should have rolled to not be grievously injured. Right? We just kind of hadn't made it happen.
Yeah.
And you should have rolled to heal him, but like, oh well. Doesn't matter that much. But yeah, I tried to make it as seamless as possible with the recording. This one wasn't as difficult to edit as the Chrome Inquisitor Season 1 because there were less of you most of the time. And so there's less like audio noise kind of going around.
Less guitar playing in the background you have to edit out.
Only one episode Adam's in, so yeah. Oh my goodness. Editing episode 1 of season 2 is a nightmare. I literally just gave up for a while because, there's a bunch of other stuff going on in my life, but also it was just a nightmare. It was just not fun at all to edit. Anyway, so Year of Raging Winds, 5 episodes. We did for about maybe a month and a half or something in between season 1 and 2 of Chrome Inquisitors, and it was everyone but David. Adam only was there for 1 episode, but his character was kind of like around for most of it. And then it was fun because we started with Avion, Podino, and Jontos, Connor, Jared, and Josh's characters, and then ended up ending with their characters too, right? We first episode was just those 3, last episode was just those 3. And it's fun to watch the progression. The 2 main things that jump out to me for this game, right, is Jontos is kind of like the main character of the of the story, right? Because he's like the cook his arc trying to be a good cook aboard this ship is kind of like the main thrust of the whole game. And then Connor's characters are the villains, right? They're both the antagonists. So it's fun to see those 2 characters. What are you guys' initial thoughts? Now that we've kind of talked through the game, right?
It was short, sweet, and to the point.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The perfect mini campaign.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah, we screwed around with some fun things, but yeah, it's only 5 episodes, and so we get a lot of
story. Competent with only 3 life paths.
Yeah, and we get a lot of story within a very small amount of time, and it feels very cohesive. And yeah, I mean, there was some fudging of the dice at the end, just to kind of give us an ending. That wasn't because like we weren't telling a good story. It was because no one else could play anymore. So it was just me and Josh at the end.
Yep.
And we were like, well, we gotta wrap up the story somehow. So what where have we been going with the story? And I think we tell a very cohesive ending, and especially in the podcast version, it feels really, really seamless to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think in the original version, right, we spend like maybe an hour and a half or something, like from the moment, maybe even 2 hours, from the moment like Jared leaves the episode, and we just go into kind of like narrative mode there,
Yep.
and we just end up talking about like what might happen with these characters. This is a long time where we're just kind of chatting about it, and I try to condense that to like the actual thing that matter for the ending of that story. So yeah, I think as long as you liked it, Connor, I think it worked then.
Oh yeah, for sure. I hated playing Podino, but I loved playing Winter.
I have to say, I think Winter is one of the best characters you've ever played.
I agree. Something clicked in my brain. Some sinister part of my brain clicked.
Yeah.
And it was
sure.
just seamless for me.
Yeah.
I don't know where that piece is.
Villain.
I think I should remove it. Yeah, my repressed villain.
It was Winter was the epitome of aura of innocence, right? Like that trait in Burning Wheel. That's who Winter was. Yeah. Every word out of Connor's mouth sounded so genuine, but we all knew that it was like terrible, evil, demonic, like worm tonguing happening.
Jontos, you ever have a dream?
Yeah. And Captain, I'm not meant for a simple life.
Yeah.
After you got him to like spell out his entire life story.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah. Oh, so good. So good. And I really liked the contrast that we got when we kind of made up the ending there. We made a fun contrast between Podino and Cadmail, right? The two Dragon Blood characters on the ship. We posited that, okay, as Podino is marooned, right, for being evil, then Winter comes on and is a better villain than Podino was. Right, is better, is good in all the ways that Podino wasn't, and none of the characters are ready for him because they everything went too easy on this voyage, right? And they're not ready for the actual villain of the game. And when he shows up, we have Cadmail be marooned instead.
Yep.
Yeah, and I thought that was just a really fun, like, contrast there. Oh man, I just remembered that. So in the in season 2, we had a side story thing where Trevor played Cadmail again, and David was playing like another character that was like his friend or whatever. Didn't end up going anywhere, so I ended up like privating it on my channel, and I don't think that's officially part of the story anymore because it doesn't go anywhere. And Trevor's not playing with us anymore, so it's not like Cadmail is going to show up necessarily. But I think my canon ending is that Cadmail gets marooned, right? Even though, we were going to leave that up to Trevor, but, Cadmail didn't end up being important again. So I think that is the canon ending, which meant that technically he was probably on that island where Gorath was just at in season 5. I need to figure out if he's relevant at all. Yeah.
Helps the body make his way back to the head.
Maybe. Yeah. I'll have to think about it. But yeah, what do you guys feel playing your characters? Like, what are some highlights for you being able to do that? Things that jump out.
I pivoted, I think, like halfway through the first episode, or maybe like at the start of the second episode. At first, I was just going to be, oh, no one's competent at all. I'm going to do everything to. Wait, no, that's not this guy. He takes people who thinks that are that way, and then he builds them up. And then I loved just putting. I love putting Trevor in compromising positions, trying to teach him like leadership skills.
It was hilarious to watch because like at the end of the session, we'd be like, Jared, you got no Artha for this character because all of your instincts are like, or like at least at the first, I think 2 episodes, because you hadn't changed those beliefs yet. We were like, this is totally against what your character is built for. And you're like, no, it's more interesting if I just, and you like didn't make any rolls either, right? You were like, yeah, I could make this oratory roll like I built my character for, but instead I'm just going to have Cadmail do it because it's funnier that way.
Yeah, it just made sense because it's like I literally just rescued 2 slaves and gave them jobs. So I was like, yeah, that's not much. Me.
Yep.
Yeah, that was fun putting people in compromising situations and leadership roles that they were not prepared for.
Yeah, poor Trevor. Every time you did that, he was just like, what are you doing? I'm not good at this. Yeah. Cadmail was a really fun character, and especially like contrasted with Podino. I really liked that thing there. I ended up making an entire so David and I sat down with our podcast Idle Inspiration, where we do like game design and talk about RPGs and stuff, and ended up making I haven't actually like done the legwork on this yet to like actually make it in the Burning Wheel rules, like a new character stock for the Dragon Bloods. But we came up with all the ideas, like, the grand stuff, like what that would look like. And I definitely based that in a lot of ways on the only time we got Dragon Blood characters on screen, which was, Podino and Cadmail. And it was that contrast that you had between assimilation and like revenge, right? It was how do the Dragon Bloods view their enemies, right? The people that subjugated them. Do they view them as lesser, or do they view them as something to be aspired to? Right? Are they are you like Trevor? Are you going to assimilate to the human cultures, or are you superior to them and you're going to get your revenge, right? On anyone who gets in your way. And that's Podino. Ended up making like a whole character stock out of that. So I think it would be really fun to return to the Dragon Bloods at some point, but that's probably a long way off. Maybe if I ever eventually get around to making those life paths, I think it would be fun to try out. But yeah, the Dragon Bloods are interesting because like they definitely started off being they're just lizard folk from Dungeons and Dragons / Dragonborn / whatever else I want to throw in there, right? But I think I ended up with something not maybe unique, but interesting by the end of it. But we only got a little bit of Dragon Blood in this game, but I thought it was fun to see Podino and Cadmail, kind of two sides of that same coin there. Yeah, Avian was a lot of fun doing your funny accent and pushing people to do things for you. And I especially liked you pushing Cadmail out in front and center, and then you had a good moment with the Duel of Wits there in episode 4.
Wow, with the pirates.
Where Avian actually does take the center stage, because if you had made Cadmail do that, you would have failed.
Yeah.
So it was good that Avian actually stood up to the challenge there. The fun thing I like about this miniseries is this is actually where we tried out the subsystems. This is the first time we ever did a Duel of Wits, and it's the first time we ever did a fight. Anything with the fight rules. I think David and I did a Duel of Wits and fight rules in our little one-on-one Burning Wheel game that we were doing around this time. But this is the first time we tried it out as a group, right? Like we tried out the Duel of Wits and did a volleys where everyone was helping out with different things in episode 4, and then we just tried the fight rules in episode 5. And honestly, I thought the fight rules in episode 5 worked pretty seamlessly. We did a good job of making that seem like we had it go pretty quickly, actually, all things considered. Mm-hmm. I think it worked there. Yeah, what do you guys think about the gameplay? We were doing 3 life path characters. We were trying out some new subsystems.
Some of us were better at doing what their character was meant to do than others.
Yes. Well, it was one of those things where like Dylan and Alphonse showed up everyone in Crow Inquisitor Season 1 with their gray shade. And so Connor was like, oh, I gotta get a gray shade, right? And then
I didn't understand how the system worked well enough.
And you didn't even have enough life paths to really make that work like it's supposed to, right?
Mm-hmm. And you only had a gray shaded 4 knives.
Yep.
Yeah, it would have been a very different game if Podino had actually been competent, I think.
If he had a single talking ability.
Because honestly, your role playing with Podino wasn't bad. Like you actually did a really good job playing this like noble savage archetype. It was very fun.
He was a slave, right? And so I feel like it played out exactly how it would have, right?
Yeah.
Vengeful slave gets on ship to try and murder people and dies.
Yeah.
My favorite Podino failure was when he was trying to set the ship on fire. He couldn't do it because he didn't have the fire making skill.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, you should have actually been rolling arson, actually, and it would have probably been easier. There's actually a skill called arson. No, I know. When I was listening back through it, I was like, why didn't we use arson for this skill? It's like one of the first skills in the list.
Nice.
But I don't know if it would have mattered that much, really. Yeah. One of the fun things about doing the podcast version of this, right, is being able to edit around stuff, like arguments we have about the rules or whatever. And I remember there being a whole big argument about, Trevor, our classic rules lawyer, was very miffed that I had Susuo jump out of her hiding place during that sequence where Podino's trying to set the kitchen on fire. But I was like, okay, Podino's just about to get captured. He has to have a chance to do something, or else this is dumb.
Is like a typical.
She's very ditzy, yeah. Mm-hmm. No, so I thought it made sense, but it was fun because we just got to make that seem like everyone thought it was okay, because it was okay, Trevor.
Jeez, you seem a little bitter. You
No,
need to go to
I'm not.
therapy.
It's been
It has
8
been-
years. Let it
It's been a
go.
long time, yeah.
It's been like 9 years at this point. Yeah,
Yeah. Holy cow. 9 years ago, guys.
something like that.
We're old.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, we're not really, but we feel like we've been here for a long time.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on the like your character building? Like we talked a little bit about Padino being a failure there, but like I think we asked that for Crow Inquisitors too. Like what were your inspirations there when we were making these characters? Why did you choose the characters you did?
Nigel Thornberry. But like
Yeah,
rich
pretty
and
much.
dapper.
Yeah.
I don't know what.
I mean, let's be real. Nigel Thornberry is rich and dapper. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess he could just afford to live in a
exactly
the safari
in like a really high tech RV, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, for 3 life paths, my guy ended up pretty good.
yeah, no, he was definitely overpowered. And we just like talk off screen before we started this episode. He has 8 health,
8 health, 7 resources,
7 resources.
6
Yeah,
steel,
exactly. And not a
4
bad skill
circles.
list,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
Connor has, as opposed to Podino, who has 4 skills. I have 1, 2, 3. I have 7.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and you have 2 health.
Yeah, I had 2 health. I was a slave. Yeah.
Get things
And
subtracted.
that's why
Literally, if
I'm
someone
like, it turned out exactly how it was supposed
And you have
to,
multiple stats that just have 2. So if someone like flicked you wrong, you'd go unconscious.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the downside to gray shading.
Yep.
Yeah. Which is why gray shading like works better when you have a lot more life paths.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's actually one of the things in the game that like is there intentionally is like you're gonna either sacrifice a lot for a gray shade or you're gonna be like a 6-7 life path elf who's obviously gonna gray shade stuff because you have points to spare, right? Like I think that's why didn't we gray shade Caspian's resources because he just ended up having too many, right?
I think so, yeah, because once you get to 10, you trade like 5.
Yeah, you just spend 5. I don't think you're supposed to in the rules, but like otherwise you're gonna have like 15, which you can't, right? Yeah. And so it's like, well, at least use some of them. And having 10 seemed a lot.
That's how the attributes like work, right? Is if you get to like 10, you can trade 5 to gray shade it.
So it doesn't. It says specifically on a few of them that you can do that. Like, I think like for steel. It's possible you can do it for resources. I just know that like there were specific ones where it said like, here, you can do this. You can spend 5 to gray shade it. And other ones, it doesn't say that. So, maybe they're implying that you can't do it on certain ones. But I was fine with it. It seems to make sense that when you have overload like that you can spend some. Like, grief and other like emotional attributes are allowed to do that. Because otherwise you like go out of the game if you don't have those gray shaded. But I know that there's like a trait called Child Prodigy, where if you're a 1 or 2 life path character, you can get that trait and you can gray shade a stat or like add 4 or 5 to a stat. Or sorry, gray shade a skill or add 5 to a stat or something like that because you're like a child prodigy who needs, he's like really good in one thing.
And you need to do that when we do our Japan one, Connor.
Are you gonna play a child?
The one where David and I are like your protectors, and you're like a
yeah.
Maybe that wasn't
different from the Japan
Japan
one.
I thought my mind always goes to Japan because I'm a weeb.
And again, it was never planned that Connor was going to play that character. I think it was going to be an NPC who's going to be the.
Okay.
Oh no, I'd love to play the.
You could if you wanted to.
I'd love to play the innocent kid or whatever that has no combat skills and has to be protected all the time.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, guys. Even if I tried to make a really good combat character, it would still just end up the same way. I would still be that weakling kid that can't protect himself. So
might as well lean into it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I feel like that's kind of where Winter came as well. As I was like, screw combat. Let me just talk my way out of stuff. And I feel like
you were cheating
really
a little bit with Winter because you also had access to a demon character sheet. But yeah, let's talk about Winter a little bit. We talked about Podino, but talk about Winter.
Yeah, that was kind of cheaty, but I think the reason we decided on it was because we didn't have an antagonist to this story, and we wanted an antagonist, and Patina was supposed to be that antagonist, and then we realized 1 3 life path character can't be a threat to 4 other three
to an
life path
entire crew
characters.
full
Like
of people.
I can do nothing. It's not like there's not a genuine like threat here. And so we were like, okay, well, let's give him the demon side as well as a character sheet so that he can switch back and forth. And then he poses some of a threat because then he's 2 3 life path characters versus 4. And so then it's like we actually feel like we have something going on here. And I think it worked out well. I don't think it, to me, I don't look back on it thinking like, we cheated. I think we just, especially because it was a short and sweet, 5-session story. And so it felt like it worked out well.
I do think we had him be Eurus ended up being more than 3 life paths. He has a lot of skills.
Really?
I don't think I think it was like 4 or 5 or something. You kind of need a good amount of life paths as an orc, which is the life paths we built him with, to get anything useful. Otherwise you're just like a goblin, right? Like you're like a mook goblin.
Okay, interesting. So we did cheat.
A little bit, yeah. But as you said, I think it makes sense because we were making him the antagonist. So, and Winter himself is just a 3 life path character with corruption. Like that's the only extra really thing he has going for him. But you had a 5 in persuasion, and then you had a couple of mending skills, which I don't think you ever used. But gave flavor.
But
to your
I was playing it. Yeah, I was playing Kid Tarius' son.
I love that you have always inventing something as an instinct, which was one of Cantarius's instincts.
Yeah.
That was so fun.
And I think the rest of them I tried to like flip it on its head. Be like, I forget what they were at the time. It was like never harm a child or something. It's probably what the other one was. And then
well, your instincts is Winter. The other ones were never make Eurus angry and always blame Eurus even if I am the one in fault. So I don't know if those were flipped from Cantarius, but they were focused on the demon. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yep. Yeah, Winter was a lot of fun. As we said earlier, like he was a good villain. He was always believable. Like you guys met him in a sea cave filled with dead bodies. You had been feeding the velociraptors in there, the dead bodies of the sailors and the smugglers in here, and you somehow got on the ship anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like you said it in the right way and had the dice behind it to actually convince them that you weren't a creepo, that you weren't literal Gollum living in these caves. Jared, what did you think about Winter's character?
I thought he was great. It was a good prequel to Winter in season 3.
Season 2, but yeah.
I thought it was season 2. Season 3 is the desert.
Yep. Yeah, and we ended up it ended up working out pretty perfectly that a lot of these characters come back for season 2 and end up kind of flavoring that whole thing. I think I always had the plan that Winter was going to be involved there in whatever was happening in Lucerta because I wanted to bring it back to Connor's backstory, but it ended up working pretty perfectly to like tie a bunch of these other characters into it as well. It was really fun Easter eggs for all of us. And then David the whole time is just like, oh, another character that you guys had in that game. Okay. I see. So yeah, that was fun. We didn't have a whole lot from Adam's character in the game. He was only in 1 session, but Iris does end up becoming a very prominent character in season 2 and 3, especially season 3.
Yeah, I feel like the biggest flaw with Year of Raging Winds is that we didn't have consistent attendance from all the characters, and I feel like that's
a bit harder to do when you're all on the same ship.
Yeah, I think it ended up being okay because we were able to get it done within 5 episodes. I think it would have lasted for a lot longer than 5 if we would have had consistent attendance the whole time. Because there are so many moving parts.
Yeah, because I mean, there's like a really long ship voyage there that we didn't get most of. We kind of just montaged at the end and then did a detour. But for what it was, like it was always meant to be like 4 to 6 episodes or something like that. So I think it worked for what it was. I would be interested at some point, to take a look at it and be like, okay, if this was like an actual novel or something, like what would be the main point of it, and like what would you take out, what would you leave in, what would you expand upon to make the same general story work? That might be a fun exercise. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a fun little game. it's still one of my favorite moments when we made that first cooking roll for Jontos and realized that like somehow there were stakes to this.
There were no higher stakes than a Jontos cooking roll.
I know, and it was so fun. Like
there was in the whole game.
The one where after he successfully persuaded everyone that it was Podino's fault, like he was sabotaging the cooking, it's like, okay, this is your literal last chance to roll a good roll.
And he did it, right? Like he actually succeeded. The amount of like stress that caused everyone was like phenomenal.
Yeah.
Especially coming from like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like that was mostly what we were familiar with before this point. We had played some like Mistborn adventure game and some hero system or whatever, but like this was really eye-opening to me. These cooking rolls specifically, because I was like, man, this is Burning Wheel. Like this is what you can get out of like you can make anything interesting because all of it has the same stakes, right? Because you're always rolling this like dice pools. You're always like asking what the intent is. You're always like figuring out what failure can mean. Instead of just, Dungeons and Dragons could have been like, okay, we'll make a cooking roll, but like it doesn't really matter. Like even if you fail, it doesn't really matter because that's not what the game is about, right? But suddenly, Jontos' entire character, right? Like, if you had tried to make this character in Dungeons & Dragons, you would have failed miserably because you would have had to make him a competent fighter, and then it's like, okay, well, why does he have a gimpy leg? I guess he has a 6 in dexterity, but does that really hamper a Dungeons & Dragons character? Not really, right? Or if it does, like, they just die because that's what the game is about, is fighting. But you make a character in this and you say, this is a sailor who has to become a cook. And that's what this entire thing is about. Is this guy having to make a cooking roll every day.
That's definitely where a Burning Wheel shines over D&D.
Yeah. Just like it's about the characters and you can make anything relevant. Like I still want to like do another game like this where it's just about like normal people doing like things in a fantasy setting without it having to be like a giant world-ending thing, like just a bunch of monks in a monastery, or a bunch of people on a ship.
Turned into
it did, and it will. I'm sure it will eventually. But like the premise of a game being just like a social structure and like the people doing things in that social structure, so fun and interesting, even if like the stakes aren't super high. Yeah, so at some point I would like that's actually one of the reasons I am interested in doing that like samurai game or whatever, because like it doesn't even have to be like a bunch of samurai fighting demons or whatever, at least at the beginning. It can just be samurai literally just being samurai. Like they're just having to follow their lords and they're just having to like, do the things that samurai have to do in a normal Japanese style setting with the skills they have, and sometimes that will be fighting. Sometimes that will be like, oh, my lord is forcing me to do this thing I don't want to do. Do I do it or not? Like, yeah. Anyway, those sorts of things are super fun for Burning Wheel.
I liked Tyrese a lot. I really liked his character. I'm glad Adam could do it with us. I felt like what was the girl's name? Iris and who? Susuo. Their love story was good. I rooted for them.
Yeah, she was kind of sus.
I thought Trevor did a really good job playing like this. I don't want to say wannabe captain, but like trying to prove himself captain. I really love that.
I love how awkward he was.
Yeah. Cadmail is one of my favorite Trevor characters for sure. He did a fantastic job.
He plays the awkward character very well.
Yeah. When we sent this, I sent a link to everybody for these episodes. It seemed like Trevor was very excited to listen to these again. He was like, "Oh yeah, that's awesome! I'm going to share these with people." So it's fun to be able to reminisce about this stuff. One of these days we'll have to get Trevor on again to do a one shot with us, or maybe just to talk about one of these games again.
So that you can get him back for the rule breaking thing that you were upset about, or
no,
or not rule breaking thing. Remember our
rules lawyering.
The cat, yeah.
No.
Trying to get him back. You still can't let go, huh, Kip?
No,
still can't let go.
Fine. Hey, I can let go because I can delete it from my brain and from the podcast forever.
For Avion, I felt like if Jared played Avion without I don't remember you having like a first episode like shift. I just remember being like, yeah, Jared fits Avion perfectly.
It was mostly Avion. On my character sheet. Just every single thing was just like, he's going to be like a snob rich guy.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Classic Burning Wheel, having beliefs and instincts that you realize you don't care about at all and then having to switch them. Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's the fun thing about Burning Wheel is you test the character a little bit and then you realize, oh nope, I don't care about that. No, let's change that.
Yep. Don't worry, this season's good for the woke crowd too, because we got a strong female.
Strong female
character. The strongest character is a female.
Who actually spends the entire series trying to be a good noblewoman and not being a fighter, actually.
Yeah.
Or learning to read.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't put that in the summary, but actually that's what she spends the entire game doing is like fighting between the noblewoman she wants to be and this like scrappy slave girl that she had to be like to survive. Which I think is actually, it is a fun character arc. I think we maybe played up the like, she's a strong, independent woman with like a giant staff a little bit too much. I don't think it actually makes sense that she would have been your literal bodyguard. But when you literally hired like mercenaries already, so
I think the point there is you hire a woman who knows how to fight because no one expects a woman to know how to fight, and so.
But she also was carrying around a giant like club the entire time, which is like defeats the purpose, right?
It's one thing for that's funny.
Yeah, literally, she had a kanabo, which is like it's kind of like a mix between a staff and a club with spikes on it.
Nice.
But that's why I think like Caspian's version of this worked better, where like you have this like woman who's always next to him and then has knives and can come and stab you, as opposed to like a giant staff club thing she's walking around with. The idea of her being like a scrappy slave girl that had to like learn how to fight to survive, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But we went maybe a little bit too anime for Chrome visitors.
What was the name of that Netflix? I don't know if it was really an anime, but it was about the female warrior who was trying to protect that kid. Because that's loosely what I based it off of, I think.
I know what you're talking about. But
you are the people who recommended it.
Is it an anime?
Recommended the show to you?
Is it an anime, Jared, or is it like a live action thing?
Yeah, it was on Netflix. It was an anime. It was
You talking about Violet Evergarden?
No. It was like old Japan. Lady had like a spear. She's trying to protect some like noble kid.
I do not know what you're talking about.
Vaguely familiar. Okay, let's anime.
Oh, there we go.
Did you find it?
Yeah, Morabito, Guardian of the Spirit.
I have not seen that.
Yeah, I haven't either. I don't think I recommended it. It might have been David. Okay, yeah, I see. Yeah, this makes sense. I definitely have heard that name before. I know that this exists. Okay, yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I definitely expected either Avion or his wife to die at some point.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Although didn't end up happening. Killing me with my 8 health.
Yeah, for real.
But I remember like the beginning of the first episode, we just see you guys like, you know, embracing, looking out over the horizon at the ocean, and I'm like, one of you has to die. Like this can't continue. It's too sappy. But I mean, maybe they did get murdered by Winter's cult, but I don't know.
Nah, they're still alive. I'm bringing them back next season. I'm gonna circle them up.
If Alphonse decides like he needs like a rich patron or something and tries to make that circles roll, then maybe we can do that.
Well, what is the one thing Alphonse needs right now?
Oh, that's very true.
If he can pay back the debt, I think that's the only way he could ever get back in Sergio's good graces.
That's an interesting idea. We could pursue that.
And he doesn't have magic anymore, so he needs something to pursue. Mm-hmm. Half of his goals are gone after last session.
It was really fun to make music for this game. I know you didn't listen to the whole podcast there, Jared, but Connor, what did you think about the soundtrack that I made?
Music is really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
The first time I think I told you this when I was listening to it, the first time the opening song came on, I thought it was kind of cringe. And then by the second time I heard it, I was like, nah, this fits perfectly. And I think it was because I hadn't gotten back into the setting yet, but like the whistling really threw me off. And then literally the second time I heard the opening, I was like, oh no, it's perfect.
So it's not actually like humans whistling. It's actually just a whistle. It's like a particular type of it's a particular instrument that like is in sea music a lot. It's like this particular wind instrument. I'm trying to remember. Seafaring wind instrument whistle thing. Let's see what comes up here. Oh, might be a tin whistle. I don't remember. I'll have to look it up. But there is a particular wind instrument that
makes that noise.
Yeah, that makes that noise. I had a suite of virtual instruments there. One of the Albions from Spitfire, if anyone knows what I'm talking about there. That it's like the whole suite is like it really feels very seafaring, kind of lighter than most like kind of epic orchestral stuff. And I use a lot of instruments from there. Like I think there's a sackbut in there at one point, which is a fun instrument. But yeah, it was fun to make like non-depressing dark music for this one. There's a lot of really happy, jaunty tunes. And then I made a romance theme for you and your wife there, Jared. And some other fun tracks. Winter's theme. I love Winter's theme that I made. It'll be fun to bring that back for season 2 and do more with it.
I don't remember what my inspiration for Winter was outside of just like Darth Sidious. I think I was just trying to think of a different. I was like, I can't overpower these people with one character. So I was like, how could I pose a threat? Yeah. And I was like, well, what's the other villain archetype? It's Sidious. Like Darth Sidious just uses his mouth. He just talks
slash
his way
worm
out of
tongue.
things.
Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I had a blast editing this together, and excited to try to get to Crow Inquisitor season 2 there. If I can make it through Crow Inquisitors season 3, if I can just make it through, the rest of the podcast will be so much easier. It's just the audio. If I can finally just make it through these old things, it'll open up a world of possibility for me.
Connor, you just need to create an AI program that automatically gets rid of all the guitar playing in the background.
Yeah. There actually is some AI stuff that Adobe has that kind of works for this. The issue is some of it's just too much going on, and it doesn't know which voice to isolate, right? And so I would need to, like right now it's like there's like a beta tool, a tool that's in beta right now that you can mess around that like really helps this sort of thing. But I would need, if Adobe ever releases like a full suite of like AI audio editing stuff that like I could customize and tweak and stuff, then that might be able to be a good help. I mean, but I don't think
my guess is that's going to be in the next couple of years here.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, but I'm not going to wait around for that. So
yeah. Well, you say that, but
I'll just suffer.
It's already been a couple of years.
No, I know. Yeah. My plan was to do like one podcast a year, and I did Year of Raging Winds in 2022 and then did nothing in 2023. So one last thing that I think we need to talk about is Jontos' stories.
I was going to mention that earlier. Yeah, that was my favorite part of Jontos. I was going through just each of the characters, trying to remember like what I liked about him and stuff. And that
I loved his story about
wasn't my favorite part. Yeah.
My favorite was the one where he told the story about the guy who always said when he was talking, and that caused Trevor to mess up his role.
And Trevor played into it so well too, right? Like that whole sequence. Like at first, he like Trevor was like, "What are you doing? That's not going to help my character." And then when he actually failed the role, he was like, "Oh, this is perfect." Like I see Josh in the crowd, and then I just start saying all the time, and perfect.
That was great.
Really, really good back and forth there. But yeah, I mean, Josh is really great at that sort of stuff in role-playing games, right? Like having a thing like that he can have his character talk about, right? So like for Till, it's like opera, right? Like his character was talking about opera or whatever. And then, for Jontos, it's like stories of the sea and stuff that had happened on previous voyages. So fun to hear that character do that. And I'm glad that by the end of the miniseries, we finally gave him the skill he deserved with oratory. Instead of persuasion, so he could do that to great effect. That was a lot of fun. The characters all had some really fun interactions there. I mean, as we were saying, like even Podino, like he had a really good like kind of noble savage thing going on. All the characters had a lot of fun. Even Iris, like there for one episode, Adam came in and knocked it out of the park. Didn't try to steal the spotlight, but every time his character was there, he just had a blast playing him. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on, guys, to talk about this. I'm glad we finally got to do it. And it worked out perfectly because David ended up not being free today. So we're like, hey, finally we can do this thing that we've been pushing off for forever. So, yeah. This is a fun game. Fun to reminisce about it. And, we'll be... Actually, if you want to listen to the music for this game, it is on Spotify and everywhere you find your music. So if you want more Year of Raging Winds in your life, you can go listen to that soundtrack. Well, we'll go ahead and call it there. And hopefully we'll be back soon with some more Crow Inquisitor's goodness. I just finished editing part 1 of the first episode. I promise, like, once I get through the first episode of this season, it'll be way easier. The first episode, we have literally all 7 people involved in that game on there at the same time, which is the only time we ever have that happen.
7 including you?
Yeah, 7 including me.
Oh,
It's
okay.
impossible
Yeah.
for the audio to be good because it's just so many people all talking at once and not muting their microphones. It's terrible. But I'll eventually, once I get to like the mini episodes that we did with like Jared and David, those will be a lot easier to edit, and I'm sure I'll get some steam rolling there.
Well, yeah, we had a bunch of mini episodes in season 2.
Yeah, that'll be to come. Hopefully I can do that soon. All right. This has been the Year of Raging Winds podcast. We are out. Thanks for doing this with me, guys, and thanks for listening. We're out.